I'm your host, Gene Van Horn. On the ConvoyOP podcast, you will learn from outstanding luminaries in the world of tech and business who are unique, different, and passionate. In this episode, I will introduce you to Elena Balasa. Romanian Born Elena is a mechanical engineer, mentor, and a very powerful businesswoman. Her roots as a child growing up in Eastern Europe infused in her a willpower that has helped her to surmount numerous obstacles in her life. Let's jump right into this conversation with Elena Balasa. Many times we forget who we are as humans and how to enjoy simple moments, and instead we focus more on what's next.
Yep. Yep.
So explain that for me so that the audience listening can get your thoughts behind that quote.
It took me a while to understand that because I see life in images. I see where life can take me, and I just work towards that goal, right? But I did not enjoy the results. I did not live my life like I live it right now until after I turned 50. I felt that I had to work so hard. And indeed, we had to work hard, both of us, my husband and I, because we had to work hard to get where we were stable, where we felt that besides working hard, we can also enjoy the moments, right? We came from very poor families. It took us some time to build that wealth and financial stability, and we never gave up. However, I learned how important it is to just live the moment and smell the roses. Really being thankful at the end of the day for what I have achieved for the day that took me one step further to where I needed, but enjoying that moment, learning how to enjoy gardening, learning how to enjoy painting, watercolor painting, learning how to enjoy the moments with my family, a hike, just talking about, I don't know, leaves, birds, watching nature, simple moments. So I don't know if it was because we came from where we came and we had to build everything from scratch twice. One time in Romania under corruption, instability, economical instability, inflation, not having any help and trying to make something out of it, dreaming to leave the country and become Americans. That is all we wanted. And then here where we started from nothing, we didn't know anyone, just the two of us. I don't regret what I have done, but I think that I will take a few moments to enjoy what I had achieved for the day earlier in my life.
Going back to earlier in your life, because your life story is motivating. Take us back to Romania, Elena, to that little baby that had a illness whose father never gave up on finding the cure. You've been a fighter since before you were even talking.
My father told me that when I was 7, 8 months old, I had a disease in my stomach where I could not sustain any food. So because of that, I lost a lot of weight. I did not do well. They kept me in the hospital. And the doctor said to him that they can't do anything. And remember, my father had a daughter that died before me from another marriage. And my mother, she did treatment for years to have me. And he was a nurse. Them receiving this kind of news was not what they wanted. They loved me. And my father did not want to give up. It's interesting, my father never gave up. Never. He was a very positive person. He worked with another doctor and they combined an antibiotic with something else. And he started to give me that antibiotic. Suddenly, a few weeks later, I have been cured and I started to gain weight. So it was a miracle. And even my father said many times when I was a child, because I was so determined and so strong-headed, he's like, since you were a baby, I cannot believe how hard-headed you are, and you wanted to leave. You wanted to leave. It was good, but sometimes it drives me crazy. Drives me crazy. So I remember books were my friend. Wherever I could find books, I would go and read. I would go in the library and pick up books the best I could, because you did not have too many options in Romania. And my father, going on very simple vacations, he will not spend money on anything else. We'll end up in libraries with very old books, and we will buy them cheap, but we'll find good books. And he will tell us many times, says, do you see all the other parents, how they save money and they are like buying an apartment, or they spend their entire life, because the cars were very expensive in Romania. They were like an apartment. That's how expensive they were. And they buy cars. But what I buy for you, I buy knowledge. I buy future. So remember that. And yes, I do remember that.
Wow. I was doing some reading and talking to folks in preparation to talk with you, Elena, and all this was going on, if I'm not mistaken, during a communist regime, right?
Yes. Until
So,
1989.
yeah, how was that affecting this environment all around you?
I remember until about 1980s. So I was about sixth grade, something like that, seventh grade, was okay. Okay in what way? Still no freedom. We were not allowed to travel in any other country but the communist bloc. And to travel in the communist bloc, you had to have connections. So even if you wanted to travel, you would not be allowed. We had good entertainment, but nothing from outside. I didn't know about the Cold War until I got in America. Can you imagine that? Around 1980s, it started to be terrible. So we did not have food. The power, the electricity will be taken away. Many times I studied at the candle in the apartment. We'll take shifts as a family to buy a bag of chicken necks or heads or legs or wings. I remember waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning to put ourselves in line to buy for one person 1 liter of milk. And the milk will come at 5 o'clock. Even if you were in line, you will not get the milk because it was not enough for everyone. I had pneumonias because I stayed in cold to buy milk. We did not have warm water, maybe a couple of times a week. I remember going with my parents with buckets, plastic buckets, to get water to drink. And we were living in an apartment, right? It was 550 square foot apartment for 4 people. On top of this, we had just 2 hours of TV a day, where 10-15 minutes were cartoons for children. Everything else was communist propaganda. So we had no connection with the outside. And my parents suffered because of communism. My father did not want to become a Communist Party member. He had to change his career completely at 35 years old and learn and study to become a nurse. My mother, because her parents had a small farm, which was their independence, it was just feeding the family. They did not want to give it to the Communist Party. They tried to scare them. They would take them with the black car and take them on the hills and up and down and yell and scream and beat them up just to give away the farm. And they did not want it because that was their freedom. They worked generations to have that farm. And my mother, because of that, she could not get into a high school. My grandma had to work around with one of her close friends and send my mother in another, how do you say, district, so they will not know what type of parents she had to graduate high school.
Wow.
Then she wanted to go in college and they rejected her in college because the parents did not give the farm to the Communist Party. And what my mother had to do, she had to go on the other side of the country, get with another friend to have enough money to survive and graduate with an associate degree. After she graduated, she could not find a job. She was not allowed to get a job to support herself. So she had to move in the south of the country and to figure out how to get lost, like all the trucks, and find a job. She worked her entire life as a phone operator. And she had an associate degree.
Incredible.
And my parents-in-law were the same. My father-in-law, very smart guy, he had patents. His parents did not want to give away the farm. So what they did, when he was 18, they sent him to serve in the army for 3 years on the other side of the country because they did not allow him to go to college. So he did something like a technical school, and he was very well respected because he would maintain locomotive engines like you never believe it. He was the best in the country, but lived very humbled because that's what it is. I remember being married with my husband. It was 1991, and how long we'll stay to buy gas after the revolution because we did not have that. I have so many stories. I remember walking for kilometers in the winter, in the snow, because I could not find a private teacher that we could afford so I can get into college.
Tell us, Elena, what is cold in Romania? What kind of cold were you dealing with?
So in the winter, it could get minus 15, 20 Celsius degrees.
What is that Fahrenheit?
I think it's under minus 30, something like that. So it was cold. I remember my nostrils will stick.
So you were walking kilometers in minus 30?
Yeah, just to get to the private math teacher to get in college. In Romania, when I got into college, were 11 kids for one spot, written exams. I got into college. I don't know how. I was lucky. We graduated just 25% of the students that got in. And I did not always had in my life like complete success with grades. I had challenges getting from 8 to 9 grade into high school when I failed. And that was a shock because I was a very good student. And that was the first shock for me. I remember locking myself in the room with all the blinds down, crying my head out because I worked so hard and I failed. And it was the best high school in town. I scared my mother and my father because they thought that I'm going to have a depression, right? I picked the pieces up and I started ninth grade 2 months later.
So I'm seeing this young person develop austere conditions. You have to deal with ration provisions, and it looks like the family takes turns to be in line for hours at a time just to get a little bit of stuff. And I read about the 80s in Romania where they were doing exactly what you said, the communist regime, to pay back certain debts that the country had. They had austerity measures, right? That lasted for a while. And then when they paid off the debt, they still had austerity measures.
Yes, they were living like kings.
These were the leaders of the country while the rest of the country was suffering.
It's incredible that you see what they did to us and that we had no freedom. It's more about the spirit. So they tried to kill the spirit of the country, of the society. It was so hard to get into college because college students and eventually educated people will be troublemakers, right? Because the more you get educated, the more you start thinking. So to get in college, it was very hard. And then they will take you and they will put you in places around the country far away from your family. So they knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what to do and how to manipulate and control.
There was one story that you related to me, which to me seems to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like a part of your rebirth when you traveled to the foreign country for work.
Yeah.
And you were on a train that was freezing cold. I hope it wasn't like 20 degrees below zero.
Oh, it was cold. It was very cold. I think it was, I would say, easily 0 or 10 degrees below 0.
In the train.
Yes. Yes.
We're not talking about a freight car. We're talking about where there were seats. And you were going to Bulgaria, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Yes, to Bulgaria to pass an interview to become a technician, a quality technician, because I said my life needs to be different. I have to try something different. I cannot be a teacher at a school with 60-70% of the job and have to pay one of the 12 salaries a year to the headmaster of the school, take an exam, study all the summer, just to have something to feed my family, to keep ourselves safe. And for what? I'm like, that's not the life I want. My parents did not know what I was doing because they would stop me. They would stop me. They knew what I'm doing the day before I left. I paid the passport, which was very expensive. It was like a monthly salary that I had to pay for the passport. And I was like, no, this is my ticket to freedom. I'm going to try it. So I did not have money to go by plane. I went by train. I stayed 2 weeks in Dubnica where I had passed an exam in the plant. And then when I came back to Romania, a few weeks later, I met with them in Bucharest and they said, we will take you. And do you know that to get this job, what I did, I learned how to sew. I was knitting to make extra money, because my husband was working for a startup and he will not get a salary. So we'll both live on a 60% teacher salary. I was making altogether a month $100.
100 US.
Yeah, the inflation was insane. So I taught myself how to make patterns. I taught myself how to sew. I taught myself a lot of stuff. I was making all the clothes for my husband and I because we did not have money. And I made it work.
Amazing. This is the 90s, and you came to the US in 2003.
2004.
2000.
In February.
How did you get to that point?
It was a long road. Since we were in college, we were dreaming to go to US. But when we discussed and we found out the money we have to have, we're like, this is a fortune. How am I going to pay for the fees and then have $10,000 to be able to support us there? Oh my goodness. So what we did, we started step by step, right? Trying to get better jobs, earning more, saving money, working really hard. I will work 7 days a week, I will tell you. And many times I will work 30 hours in a row just to make it happen. I had 2 jobs to save the money and be able to emigrate. So when we were about 35 and a half, I told my husband, we tried everything. You went in US for 6 months through your company. You really like it. You want to go there. I want to go there. I think it's the right place for us. But that legally we cannot leave. So we need to find a different way. And I said, legally, we can go to Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. What do you want? We have to choose. Otherwise, it will be too late. And he's like, let's choose Canada because it's close to US and then we can go to US. And I said, okay. So in the meantime, I had tuberculosis. I had 5 miscarriages because of stress. 1 year and a half later, we had got the green cards for Canada. It was the best achievement of our life. You cannot believe it. We went to lawyers. We prepared all the documents. We went to interviews. We met with the Canadian officer, and the lawyers told us that if we stay for more than 1 hour in that interview, we got the green cards because they will reject you. They will talk to you in English or French or both, because they wanted to ensure that when you come, you will be able to support yourself and you will not stay on Social Security, right? Canadian officer kept us there, I think, for 2 or 3 hours. The lawyers were trying to get a hold of us to understand what happened. I'm like, oh my gosh, we just got out. And they were like, you got the visas. Now we just have to wait for it. You got the visas. She loved you. And I was like, yes. And she switched in between English and French. So both of us were speaking French very well, but English was not strong. So what we did, we'll go and work, and in the evening, we'll go and take English private lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. We did everything to achieve. We did not care. We just marched. And then when we got the green card for Canada, he got the job interview for US, and he's like, what am I going to do? Take the interview. Go to the interview. Yes. It came out of nowhere. So he's like, they're making me an offer. I'm like, yes, they're making me an offer. Yes. So he got the offer. He's like, what do I do? And I'm like, take the offer, negotiate, take the offer. We are going. And he's like, I cannot believe we tried for 15 years to get in US, and now we have two options. Life is crazy. Just because you work towards that goal. It's crazy how it comes to you. And he's like, so what are you going to do? You don't have an H-1B visa. You don't have anything. And I said, I'll figure out, I'll get a sponsorship. I'll find companies to interview me and then get me an H-1B visa. I'm going to figure out. I remember when I left Romania, we had a small apartment that we bought finally and we repaired. I remember everyone was sad. I was like, America, here I come. I was like, so light, could not believe it. I just wanted to fly and get to my husband. And when I came, I remember it was so cold and winter because I came on February 14, 2004. And we had just one car. So to do grocery shopping, I will walk. Wind, like snow, rain, whatever. But we're like, we have a car. We have a car. Oh my gosh, it's a car. And it's ours. The apartment was 1,100 square foot. I'm like, this is a palace. Oh my gosh. This is crazy. Can you believe that? I have to pinch myself. This is a dream. I'm in America. Wow.
So even though you won the green card from Canada, you didn't use
Yes.
it.
No, we did not use it. And we were very afraid because we knew that it's a high chance. Like, for example, with the H-1B visa, if the company lets you go, you have to go back to your country. So those Canadian green cards were our safety net because we said if in 3.5 years we don't get the green cards, the American green cards, we are at high risk with an H-1B visa. So we'll have to go to Canada, get that citizenship there, and then come back as Canadian citizens and come back to US.
Okay, so Canada was your plan B.
Yes, it was a plan B to still be back in US.
Okay. All right. So that is amazing. And so now I see 2004, it's less than 20 years ago, these two happy people that have overcome all these obstacles, but you're still walking in the snow. Now you're here and you're what age in 2004?
In 2004, I was 38 years old.
You're like an adult lady at your experience. Your husband's like around your same age. The things that stood out to me at this point is the teacher, Elena, starts happening. I see you wanting to give back and help other people be resilient. How did you turn into that person? You got settled. You're living in a palace now. You got the running water. You can go right to the grocery store. You don't have to wait in line days. Now you're giving back. What made you decide to start strengthening all these people? Because you basically gave tough love to so many people and got them to realize how good they had it.
When I look to my past, I did not have guidance. My parents did not know how to tell me what to do, right? I had that engineering diploma and I did not know what to do. So I had to figure out, and that was hard. And eventually I still remember him, a Dutch guy that I met him through one of the companies I was working for. And that guy was my mentor. I had a relationship for many years with him. He's not living anymore. He died. Amazing person, amazing person. And that was the first person that guided me and helped me. And I remember 1 year after he started mentoring me, he was telling me, I'm amazed to see that from that cowgirl, you became a businesswoman. Just look at you. How you look, how you talk, what you know, how you dress yourself, your manners. And I said, thank you, because everything is because of you. So having that help, and then I met some wonderful people in US, I realized after I was able to have some spare time that I would love to help people and pay back and help others succeed and understand that what they want, it is achievable, not easy. So I started working with refugees, and I remember those kiddos that were just troublemakers because they were in a world where they were like on a moon, right? They don't know what to do. They don't understand the language. So they were stealing and doing crazy stuff. And I was working with their family and their mom, and then went to the police trying to help them because they could not find jobs. And then I explained to them my life, and I said, I'm coming from the same type of neighborhood and life that you come. They look at me, really? And I start talking about my childhood because I was the first child in a neighborhood that got into college. They look at me and my car and everything else, and they're like, and you are doing well. And I came here at 38 years old. I do very well. Look at you. You are young kiddo. You are 17 years old. If you do the right things with the fact that your mom doesn't have enough income, you get all the scholarships in the world. You can go to the best schools. You can have a better life than I have. Why will you not work towards that? Yes, it's not easy, but you have so many options, many more options than I had. And he looks at me and I'm like, you just have to decide to work hard and spend time where you have to spend time. And I'm here to help you if you want. And then I started to do robotics teams. As I got into the MBA, I started to mentor people at work. I started to grow in my career as a manager. But giving them that tough love was hard for me as well. Because sometimes they will reject that. They will reject that they did not see it. And eventually they started seeing it. But it took a while.
Going to that robotics team, now that we're at this point, can you explain?
The organization is called FIRST. So they have different stages of competitions based on the age of the kids. They help you create a team. The team develops the technology and also build a robot that will overcome that specific challenge that is uncovered every year in August by the FIRST organization. But what is amazing is that those kids, through that process, they learn how to be a team. They learn how to work together. They build something with their hands from scratch, knowing nothing, just knowing I need to get there. I have no idea how to get there. Then the excitement of the competition. It's so much positive energy, so many kids, everyone talking, everyone sharing, robots competing. It's amazing. Cheering, singing. It's a very positive place to be. So those kids that can go in trouble because they spend the time in the wrong way, you get them to spend the time in a productive way that will help them, not just in their career, but their life. And then I took it up onto the next level. And eventually I ended up coaching all girls robotics teams. And the team in one season was so hard for us to watch them not working and putting the energy into winning to go to the state competition because of different reasons. They got distracted. They thought that it would be easy because they did it before and they did it so many times. In that competition, I remember that year, they did not win until the very last competition that was out of town. And my husband and I were with them, and they knew that they are not prepared. The robot did not work, it fell apart. It was terrible. And we told them, but what do you do? Do you argue with them? You don't have to. So we told them, like, you are going to fail and it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch. And they did not believe us. And then they're like, you were right. I'm like, I'm sorry. I hate that we are here, but what can you do? So I remember them crying, oh, we dealt with so much drama at that competition and we'll have to hug them and calm them down. And it was crazy. But eventually, for whatever reason, they won and they got to the state. I remember when they got the award, they kissed the award and they cried. And they were like, we will never do this again. And they were like, you were so patient with us. I cannot believe it. And we just did not listen to you. I'm like, yeah. Anyway, then for state, it was a very different story. They rebuilt the robot. They did much better. So it was painful to see the experience, but it was so well worth it. And then I see majority of the team members, like they ended up going to Harvard, one to MIT. So amazing kiddos.
And you know what I liked about that story too, Lena, you made some expressions when we talked before, like one of your statements that stands out to me is everything comes with a cost. You didn't bail them out when they were just like being leisurely and overly casual. You didn't bail them out. You just let it ride. What makes you wait them out?
This is love. So instead of you letting them fail, you bail them out because in fact, you want to take away your pain. It's not about them, it's about you. So the first one that you have to work with is yourself. And don't let them bail out. Stay behind and say, nope, keep the direction, nope, keep the direction. And that's very hard because you have to put a lot of energy. It's also part of change management. You deal with a lot of drama. People that don't want to do it. Change is hard. And people want to make change and to do change with no drama, no noise. It's impossible. Any change requires a lot of leadership energy and unity. In this situation with the robotics team, my husband and I, we were united. We did not let them bail out. We held them accountable. We rewarded them. We were there to console them, but we did not say, oh, it's okay. No, it was not okay. And we told them the hard story and the hard fact.
Your daughter also has become a focal point of your life because I read another quote that you had put on LinkedIn. He said, my daughter's the best gift I wished for.
Yes. Yes. Yes, she is. She's our biggest achievement in this life because as a parent, you raise a human. And nothing is more wonderful than raising that human. And it's not easy. We made a lot of sacrifices. We drove her to a school that was 30 miles away from our home just to get her to the best school that is diverse, it's inclusive, it's very challenging, offers her a lot of opportunities. So raising a human, it is extremely rewarding. Having children is the best gift you can have as a human.
That's very nice. That's very nice. And you are a watercolorist. I was looking at some before the interview today. It's just amazing. You indicated that you got that from your youth. How did you acquire the tools and the paints and the inks?
So what I do, I teach myself. I do research and I find all kinds of tools that are not expensive online. And then I taught myself what paint to buy, what is the best paper, what are the best brushes. And then I started to study techniques.
You've got some great techniques. I used to watercolor when I was in a high school course, and I'm like, wow, there's some technique going on here. You have such blends, and you can do so many settings, nature settings and flowers. It was just amazing. Just amazing. And you get a lot of compliments on your paintings that you post on LinkedIn. So you got a fan base.
Thank you.
We have such respect for what you went through and how it molded you. I know my hope is that there's a lot of people listening and they'll tune in to hear how you endured and to look at you now. What message do you want to leave the audience with that are tuning in and hearing your story, which we know one day will be a book?
I hope so. That's my plan. My message is resilience is magic. No matter what happens in your life, as long as you could breathe and you have life, you keep going. Progress is important. Perfection, it is outdated, but make progress and don't give up on that dream.
That's amazing. This book that you're going to put together, you're goal oriented. You just said it was your goal. It's going to happen. What's the game plan?
My game plan, it is to write it as soon as possible. However, because our focus right now is on our daughter, so it's all about priorities in life, right? And we have been so good in that, my husband and I, prioritizing together what's important. So our first priority this year is helping our daughter get into college. After she gets in college, what else I could do, right? I have all this time, then I can do what I want. It's writing and doing watercolor painting besides working and traveling to see her here and there with my husband.
That book has to have some watercolors in it. You got to have some pages of watercolors because those watercolors are highlights to me.
I never thought of that. That's a really good idea.
Free of charge.
Yes.
We've been connected on LinkedIn now. I don't know how many years, at least 5 or 6. And I've always gotten a lot of motivation from your post. And then when you write something on my post, I love to see you there because then I know, hey, that must have been a good post if Elena liked it. And you're always like so encouraging and supportive too. I loved it when I first called you for our first conversation, because I had never heard your voice. And it was so cool to hear the sound of your voice because I could hear your country people in your voice. I can hear the American influence too.
Yeah, I think that when you live in different countries and different cultures, it's no other way. You get influenced.
Yeah, that was a highlight. I'm like, that's what Elena sounds like. Oh my goodness.
And I hope one day we can meet in person. I would love that.
Yes, we'll try to make that happen. Some people, after hearing you, they may want to reach out to you. Is it easier to find you on LinkedIn?
Yes. Yes, I'm connecting with a lot of people and interacting with a lot of people because we learn from each other. So anytime that I can help, I'm happy to.
Okay, that would be wonderful. So anyone listening, just go on LinkedIn and look for Elena Balasa. I am so appreciative of you taking this time, and I love your thoroughness and I love your story. We could see little Elena and how she grew up. We thank your dad because really you inherited a lot of his drive and determination, and your mom's.
And my mom, I will tell you, we have a long history in the family on the women's side. It started with my grandma. They all supported their daughters to be better educated and live as independent as possible. So my mom taught me and explained that without education, I will not be independent. She worked so hard just to make sure that we get the right education.
Yes, education is very important. We need to know how to do something and we need to know how to take care of ourselves. The honor is mine, Elena, and we're going to talk again for sure. This time next year, maybe we'll find out the progress of the book. You dropped your daughter off.
Now you hold me accountable. Thank you. I do appreciate that. I have a friend.
That's right. And I'm not going to feel sorry for you. I'm going to be on you.
I appreciate that.